So one of the things about Barbershop and what we're going to kind of talk about tonight is taking the concepts that we've talked about the last 3 weeks and applying it to not only the barbershop craft, but really to any good choir craft. All right? As a general rule, your overtone series has to line up. All right? Now, overtone series, what the heck does that mean? On every note, there's what's called an overtone series. It's not going to work on this because it's electric, so I'm going to go back to the piano behind you. But the overtone series, you have this set of notes that exist above that pitch. Okay, so the first one, if I'm singing this note, is that. The first one is an octave above it. That's my first partial above. Okay, and there's one a fifth above that. There's another one. The next one is another fourth above that, which I can't hit. But let me show you on the piano. You can just kind of turn around. So above this note, I'm just going to stay in the same key so you can hear it. Above this note, okay, this note is the first partial, which is an octave above it. Okay, so what I'm going to do this time, I'm just going to hold this note down on the piano because sympathetically, if the piano's in tune, you're going to hear this partial start to ring because that string is in relationship to the low string. So for instance, if I play this, hear that one, an octave above it, okay? So that's the first partial. The next one is up here. Let me hear it once. Now again, I'll do the same trick. Whoops. Without making a noise. Here we go. Hear that? Okay, next one's here. Probably still hear this one pretty simple, pretty obviously. Here we go. And there it comes. You hear that sympathetic vibrating? Okay, the next one is going to be a little iffy because it's a little out of tune with the piano, but it's the next one is here. Okay, so you got that one hit in your ear. Here we go. Don't make the noise. Here we go. Hear it though? Yeah, that was still pretty loud. So that overtone series, and what we do as a good choir or a good barbershop chorus is we try to build some structure within our overtone series so that chord really responds. All right. So I'm going to use as an example. Come on up. That's right. Good. Come back up, Paul. I'm going to make this have Phil. Come on up. We're going to do this as an action. It's going to be. We'll just make this work. Am I singing bass? What part do you want to sing? Baritone? Lead. Can you sing tenor? Sure. Thank you. All right. Good. So what we'll do here, I'm going to have you sing this. Okay. Phil and Paul. Okay. Let's do it on O. Go ahead and. You got it. Very nice. Okay. Say, hey, nice. That's already pretty darn good, right? Okay. So I'm going to sing the bass underneath that. And again, I'm going to start with a bad sound. Okay. With a bad vowel. And I'll try to be in tune, but I'm going to start with a bad vowel, and then notice what happens when the expansion and the overtones start to line up. There's kind of a cool effect that happens, which is called expansion of the sound. Okay, here we go. Okay. Did you notice everything just kind of went boom, about twice as loud? Okay, listen once with your eyes closed. I think you'll hear it even more. So you're totally relying on your ears. Here we go. Isn't that interesting? I mean, all of a sudden it's just like twice as loud, and particularly my note. Did you notice that? And I didn't change anything. All I did was I got to the right vowel. All right, that didn't change the volume one bit. But that's what we're trying to do with this hobby, and particularly any really good choral singing. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your help. So, now, how do we make that work? Well, first of all, we teach everybody the same vowels. And if you've ever been in a good choir, good church choir, you're going to notice that a choir teacher is very consistent about singing the same ooh every time, singing the same o every time, singing the same aw every time, so that there's some agreement, all right? And it's one of those tedious things, like, you know, starting anything, whether it happens to be. If you are setting up for a ground stroke in tennis, you know, and you're going to go to your forehand, you probably don't want to be standing like this. the first thing you learn is that every single time I'm going to get that body in position, all right? Every single time it's that same thing. And so if you watch great tennis players, it's still one of those things that they try to get in that habit every single time as part of their warm-up, all right? Same thing, repeatable, all right? So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the repeatable vowels that are really going to lock and match up all the way out, okay? So that's first and foremost. Now the nice part was these guys all sang in tune so well that we didn't have to worry about in-tuneness. All right. In-tuneness, obviously, are you singing the right note? Guys, come back up one more time. Okay? You're going to get the same effect. I'm going to sing the right vowel, but I'm going to sing a little bit sharp. It's going to drive these guys crazy because they got good ears. If I can sing a little sharper, then I'm going to come down to the note. Okay? So we'll see if you can do it. You're probably going to drive you crazy. All right, here we go. So here's baritone. Okay? Here we go. Yeah, hit it. It's like, and then all of a sudden, without changing volume, everything just went boom, and the volume got louder. Okay, so listen one more time. And again, no change in volume whatsoever, but those overtones and how they work with each other really expand on top of each other. So that's kind of what we're after. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. All right, so we got to have the same vowel. We got to sing in tune on the right note. All right, which is why we go to all that trouble to make those incredible learning tracks. Okay, so in tune, same vowel. And then the next thing is the balance. You notice I talked about in there that really in our style and most good choral groups, the bass is probably the strongest voice. The bass is probably the loudest part of the chord as that foundation. Because that's really the fundamental sound that we're building these overtones on, is the bass part. Okay? That's why basses in most choral music sing 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, sometimes 2, 5, 2, 1. The basses have that all the time. All right? Because it's the most fundamental notes of the chord. So that we're trying to tune to those. All right? So when we turn everything upside down, you're going to notice that it sounds good, but it just doesn't sound as good. So we're kind of building in this pyramid like this. Now, the reason that it works, bass being the loudest, baritone, if they're in the middle, being the next loudest, lead, tenor, the reason that this works is that where do your ears go naturally? What do you hear easiest, most easy? Oh, the highest part. The highest part. That's why we put the melody in the soprano. Right? That's why we put the melody in the highest voices of the band. That's why we put the melody in the violin section. All right? It's your ears hear that so easily. Now, can a violin play as resonantly as a bass? Absolutely not. There's no way in the world that can happen. So when a bassist, if you're ever in a room with a really good bassist, and he plays that note or she plays that note, it's just like, whoa, I mean, you can feel your whole body shake. When the violin plays loud, it doesn't really do much to you. All right? So, I mean, it's set up that way, obviously, with the size of the instrument, the size of the resonator. So, I'm going to ask my guys to come up one more time. Okay? And this time I'm going to ask Paul. Dang it. Why do I keep doing that? I did the same thing last week. I'm going to ask Paul to sing the loudest. Okay? You guys say the same, and I'm going to sing the softest. All right? So, same chord. Here we go. And, ready? Okay, still basically in tune. All right? You can hear it, and it's such a pretty voice that we have a tendency to, oh, that's still nice. It is nice, but look what happens to the sound with just that little transfer. He's going to get softer while I get louder. Okay? Here we go. There you go. So then the pyramid fixed. So you notice that? As soon as he came on, then everything fixed. So you guys kind of stay about medium the entire time. Start real loud. Let's go a little slower from loud to soft. Okay, here we go. Kind of a difficult thing to show, but you see what happened? Okay, and again, it's that expansion. So the balance is part of it. Thank you guys. Excellent. Okay. Now, so you've got intonation, starting with the basics. You've got the right vowel, the matching vowel. You have got balance, which is going to be important. Now, what about blend? What about blend? Blend is really interesting, and it's one of those things that's kind of the magic cure-all. We're always looking for a little help and trying to figure out how do I blend with somebody else and really make that chord ring, really make that exciting? All right, some of it's natural. Some of that you just kind of hop into the right group. And if you ever sung with your brother or your sister, I mean, you kind of know what I'm talking about. A lot of your nodding, it's like there's just kind of a natural match of timbre when you sing with somebody that's in your family. All right, same thing. I remember singing with my dad for the first time. We started locking 1s and 5s. It's like, wow, this is really cool. Our voices must have some similarity, even though it didn't really sound a lot like each other when we talked. So there is a little bit of that magic elixir of hoping to find somebody that has the same voice as you. I'm in a quartet that when we first started, our bass and lead were oil and water. I mean, they were so far apart. But, we ended up winning international last year. So it's a matter of how hard you want to work on it. And you've got to be able to find each other and be able to match that sound, okay? Let's see here. I'm going to look for somebody that I know who's got a little bit different voice. Yes. Let's see here. Different quality. All right. How about this? Let's have. Yeah, that's a little bit different. Let's see. Actually, let's use you two. You guys got kind of similar voices, but a little bit different. Come on. Okay, I'm going to have you sing Paul on this, and Ryan. Yes, all right. Good. Paul and Ryan on this higher note. Okay. Okay, and this one all. Good. So a little bit different. They're in tune. You can tell that it's nice sound. But what I'm going to ask Paul. I'm going to ask Paul to go to more your opera sound. Okay? Because I know you have an opera sound. All right? You should say the same, right? Here we go. Hear waves now? You're starting to hear waves in the sound. Okay? It's still in tune, but now you're starting to hear this wing. And he's not even put vibrato in yet. Okay? Now, I'm going to ask him to put in vibrato. All right? And this is why we don't want the bass in a quartet to sing vibrato. You'll hear it here in a second. Here we go. There's sounds bouncing all over the room, and as a result, these guys are both such strong singers and have such a good choral background that they can hear each other and start to lock in. Matter of fact, it's hard for them not to. It's hard for them to sing wrong, all right, or to sing apart from each other. But you notice that every time I ask Paul to do something a little bit different, it changes the overall tone. Okay, now Paul, I want you to go for an overall, really set back in the back sound. Okay, so dark, dark, and Ryan still say the same. Here we go. Notice how some of the ring has gone out now. Okay, it's again still in tune, but it's so what I'm going to ask Paul to do this time is to start back and then move forward. Here we go. Here comes the overtone between the voices. So again, you notice that's part of it all. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so the blend between the voices is also important. Now, within our style, you kind of want a lead that has a little bit more of a clarion voice, something that's a little bit more bell-like, something that's easy heard, kind of easy to cut through the sound. You want your tenor to have that kind of sparkly, really focused sound on the top. Basses, typically you want a little bit more full, a little bit more resonant. And baritones, you don't want a lot of ring in that voice. You don't want a ton of ring, which is hard for me because naturally I have quite a bit of bite to my voice. But when I sing in my quartet, I take a lot of that out because it distracts from the rest of the chord. It distracts from the rest of the chord. So for instance, if the lead has a very dull sound, very kind of a fluty sound, has a lot of air to it, and the baritone has a very clarion sound, you're always going to be fighting that tendency for those two guys. So there's a little bit, you have to kind of give and take and decide really, do I want to sing lead in a barbershop quartet if I don't really have a lot of that natural ring to my voice? Now you can work on it. There's certainly nothing wrong. Matter of fact, the lead in our quartet had to work on that a lot. And really to add a lot of that in there. He had it, but he just had to find it. And so, some of that's just a lot of work. And how how hard you want to work. And like I said, I had to go the opposite direction. I had to take a lot of the bite out of my voice and become a little bit more of a color within the sound rather than a pointed sound, if that makes sense. Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
What part do you sing?
I sing baritone in the quartet. Yeah. Normally in real life I sing bass, but in the quartet I drew short straw, I guess. No, it's not true. It's not true. I love the baritone part because you really, from the music theory geek side of me, I love it because I'm always singing. I know what part of the chord am I singing. How do I tune this? How do I balance it? And that type of thing. So, and do a lot of that stuff on the fly, which I love. I love that about the part. So, and actually, it's become pretty natural. It's become a lot more natural for me actually in the last 5 years to sing baritone than bass. So once I learned how to mix. So again, the big five as you're putting these things together: pitch, vowels, balance, blend. Did we get to the fifth? I thought. Yeah, fifth is next week. No, I thought I talked about another one. Maybe my mind went like, oh, the overall one, which we talked about in the last 2 weeks, and that is you have to have a freely produced sound. If you start to get tension in your sound, any one of the 4 guys in your group, any one of the 2 guys in the duet, if you start getting tension in the sound, you're going to have a little bit of a different sound, a little bit of a false ring. Okay, it can be produced, but it's not healthy. It's not healthy, and I would argue that it's not nearly as good as when it's freely produced. So when you have the good production, everything, good posture, right down to the basics. Good posture, good breath control, good vowels, free from tension. You're gonna create a better sound. Okay. So and again, that works in any style. That's not just a barbershop thing. That works anywhere. Now, a couple little things that are idiosyncratic to the barbershop style. First of all, as you guys have put together, most of the time our melody is not in the top voice, which is unusual compared to other styles. It's in the second to the highest voice, which kind of gives barbershop a lot of its unique sound. When you hear a barbershop quartet, you can pretty much identify it, right like that. And it's because that melody's in a different spot. Having that harmony above is one of the unique things about it. Okay. Secondly, obviously there are a lot of 7th chords. We use a high percentage of 7th chords, probably more than any other type of music. So, if you're going through, you start to hear standing things that sound like that, going through progression. So you got all these 7th chords, and then, again, certain types of chords that we hear in the barbershop style. But from a singing standpoint, here are the 2 biggies. Obviously, we don't sing with a lot of vibrato. Okay, it's not unique to the barbershop style. Vocal jazz uses very little vibrato, probably even less than us, as a matter of fact, except for style and solos. All right. If you hear really good madrigal groups, most madrigal groups don't use much vibrato if they're doing it correctly. It's not in the style. Motets, old Renaissance type music, chant. Obviously, none of that uses any vibrato. All right, so it's been around forever and ever not to use vibrato. And let me explain really quickly what vibrato is. Vibrato is kind of hard to describe, but probably the easiest way to put it is this. It is a mental pulse that your brain sends to your vocal cords, and it sends it in succession. And what it does, naturally, is allows your cords to stress, relax, stress, relax, stress, relax, stress, relax, as you hold a note. Okay? So it's not always under stress, the stress of holding together to hold that note, but there's a little relaxation in between there. That's what that is. It's a natural way for your voice to kind of relax while you sing. It's probably the best way to describe it. So for instance, can I sing with vibrato? Absolutely. If you heard me sing a solo at school, if you heard my choir sing, depending on the style, you would hear them use vibrato in style. Now, I will tell you that there are a lot of people out there, and some of you may be in this school, that a lot of voice teachers you'll talk to say, oh, you must sing with vibrato. You have to sing with vibrato. If you don't, you're absolutely singing incorrectly, and you're going to hurt your voice. All right, and there's a school of thought out there that is true. However, there's also been people over the centuries that have figured out, oh, I can sing all the way till I'm 80, 90, 95, singing healthfully without vibrato. So I'm a strong believer that you can do both. As a matter of fact, I teach both, and I teach both in school. So it's just a matter of it's a little bit different. It takes more air to sing without vibrato. You have to have more air going through the system so that you can kind of maintain the pitch a little bit more consistently. And believe it or not, it actually takes a little bit less tension to sing without vibrato. There's a little bit more tension to sing with vibrato for your chords. So it's just kind of teaching some of the musculature a little bit differently. All right, so not unique to barbershop style, but
Can you hit it? So
yeah, so you can hear the difference. So if I sing totally straight tone, use a little more air. Okay, so again, I'm using a little bit more of the full sound just because of where it is in my range. But the difference again, and I kind of show you both. Okay, and you notice that every time I kick up the air just a little bit, those people in the front kind of can probably see that, but I'm kicking up the air supply when I go to my non-vibrato sound. So, but just so you kind of see the difference. Okay, number one, making sure that you really work it. You've got to get expansion here, into the rib cage, all the way around, and you got to get expansion down. All right, so you're going to feel, and what happens, the down is actually the diaphragm going, and everything, all your guts, everything getting out of the way. So usually there's kind of a drop and expand at the same time. So when that breath happens, both ways. All right, and then when you start to exhale, constant pressure from the bottom. The rib cage stays out till about the last third, and then the rib cage comes in on the last third. Okay? Where most people get in trouble is that the rib cage starts deflating right away. And you've all seen it. Matter of fact, you've all done it. I guarantee you. You get to the end of your note, you're going, you get to that last little bit, and you're squeezing out that last little bit of air. And that happens from just letting that collapse too soon. Now, obviously it's going to happen if you go to the very end of your breath at any point. That's going to happen. But one of the big causes of that is that this starts to deflate. It's like, how are you going to breathe anymore doing that? It just doesn't work. So keeping that posture really will help. Okay. Then the consistent lift all the way through the breath, and then the last little bit, the last third, and you do let the ribs help that intercostal breathe. Okay. So those are the biggies. And then the other thing is to practice. Practice long hisses, all right, and then try to develop it. Try to develop so that you can go a little bit longer. You can hold a little bit longer. And it's the other last little bit is to not. Last little bit of advice is to not meter the air as it comes out. So in other words, if I'm going to hold a long note, I don't want to sing like this. I'm just barely given enough to make the chords work, because what happens is that the effort and the tension that you add up here to do that takes away all your breath. So the freedom, keeping a very free breath stream, typically leads to a lot longer note. So the free ride, I'll be honest with you, if I'm teaching a tag and I'm holding a note and somebody's lost in the tag, so I'm sitting there singing the bass note, whoa, and I've totally forgot about the fact that I'm singing, I'm just totally letting it just go relaxed. I'm just holding, and I get done teaching their part, and I go over here, and I'm teaching this part, and I'm still holding my note, and I realize that by the time it's done, I've been holding the note for about 40 seconds, and not even thinking about it. And that's just because, again, that freedom of the breath, let the breath do its thing. Just make sure that you're set up correctly, and that'll help probably as much as anything. Does that help? Sure. Okay, good. A couple little things, and